Hello and welcome back to the Maher Homestead. Today we are going to flavor our kombucha that we made the other day. It has gone through its first ferment for about 7 days, and it's right at the flavor I like to have it at. It's got a little bit of sweetness left, but it's still got the kombucha tang that I like as well. Obviously, if you let it sit a little bit longer, it's going to keep getting more sour, more vinegary, but this is right about where I like to flavor mine. So just doing a simple strawberry lemon flavor today using Azure diced frozen strawberries that we got on our last Azure pickup. I found that using diced fruit is about the best way to do it because it kind of brings out the most flavor, and they're small enough pieces that they can fit into the flip top bottles that I use. So that's just the best way I do it. Really, you just want to have some sugar in this bottle, and so strawberries, and then I'm going to add a little bit of honey to act as my sugars, because the kombucha actually feeds off of the sugars that you're adding, and that will continue to ferment in the bottles that I'm using, and the sugar will actually, the kombucha, as it eats the sugar, will convert it to carbon dioxide, and so that'll give it a little bit of fizz as well. So I'm putting all the diced strawberries in here. I'm going to fill it up about an inch, half inch or so to the bottom of the bottle, from the bottom of the bottle. I don't really measure anything. I just kind of do it by heart. But really, there's a lot of experimentation that you have to do, and so I kind of have a feeling of how I like it, and so I really don't have to measure anything. So I'm also going to add in the juice of a quarter of a lemon. This will add a little bit of a lemon zang to it. And then I'm also going to add in about a tablespoon of honey, just as a little bit extra sweetener. So like I said, you just need a little bit of sweetness if you want that carbonation. If you don't mind no carbonation, then you don't have to add any extra honey. But adding this extra sugar is going to help to aid in that second ferment. And then just topping it off with our first ferment kombucha. So first ferment is really just the plain kombucha that we made in our past video, which is just sweet tea and your starter. You let that sit for about a week. That is called first ferment. And in that process, you leave the top open with a cheesecloth or a tea towel or some kind of coffee filter, so oxygen can get into the vessel, because it needs to breathe and it lets off. It needs to breathe air and have that film that lets it air in and out, because that's how fermentation works. So for our second ferment, we're bottling this, and so you want it to be sealed so that it builds up that carbonation that we want. So it will continue to ferment as it eats the sugars. So sometimes you do have to burp these bottles, which basically means you let off a little bit of air and then close it back up. I probably won't for this batch, because I won't let it sit that long. So once I bottle these, I'm going to put them in our root cellar for about 2 to 3 days. Again, the longer you let it sit, the longer it's going to keep fermenting and thus build up more carbonation. So you don't want to let it sit too long, but once you put it back in your fridge, it'll slow the fermentation way down. It'll keep fermenting, but it'll slow it way down. So I'll keep these on the shelf for 2 to 3 days, anywhere between 65 to 75 degrees. It's kind of ideal temperature. Anything above that, probably 85 degree mark, is when you're going to start harming the bacteria, and you don't want to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and cover my first ferment. I'm going to put that back on the shelf to feed later. But here's the finished product. Like I said, we'll keep this in the root cellar for a few days, and once I'm ready to stop fermentation, stop the second fermentation process, I'll put it in the fridge and be good to go to drink. Now, some people do prefer to strain off the fruit. You don't have to. I prefer not to have big chunks of fruit in my drinks, so I do strain that off, but it is perfectly fine to eat those as well. So hopefully you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, please let me know. But this kombucha process is fairly easy once you've done it, and It's a pretty healthy drink that's full of probiotics, and it's very cheap and easy to do. So thanks for watching.